Welcome back to Open Line tonight. It is Beyond the News with my friend and colleague, Bree Smith. Your chance to ask her questions that go beyond the weather tonight or about the weather as well. We started off with some great questions, so we're going to get to callers in just a moment. Earlier you mentioned your husband, Kurt, and how he factored into your life from the get-go. Tell me about your family, though. A lot of folks remember the past year.
Yeah.
Baby.
I was really pregnant at this time last year. I was getting ready to pop. So, yeah, the baby is 10.5 months old now.
That's crazy.
Isn't that nuts?
Little Brooks.
Little Brooksy. He is itching to walk. He grabs every chair and stool he can. He's very much in that furniture rearranging stage of toddlerhood. So he'll be 1 in just a little over a month. We also have a 5-year-old, my son Cole, who turned 5 last August. And Kurt and I have been together for 13 years, but married for 8. So, and we have 1 snobby cat.
Jack.
Yeah, he's not very friendly, Jack. Our boys, especially the baby, they want to be friends with that cat so badly and just don't understand why the cat does not want to play along.
Don't have time for you, kid.
Don't have time.
Leave me alone.
Don't have time. He just looks at them like, why did you bring this hairless, tailless thing home?
This thing to terrorize me.
Yes, I don't want this. So we are full, just like, you know, you've got 2 little ones at home. It is a rambunctious stage of life.
A sleepless stage of life.
Sleepless stage of life.
You never know what tomorrow brings.
No, no. Kids are early risers, but they are, I mean, you know, it's the sunrise and the sunset. Somehow you don't have any energy, but you find.
But you do it.
You find, yeah.
You do it.
You find a way.
Yep.
You find a way.
All parents know that feeling, I think. Okay, we're going to hop back to the lines. We have John on the line. John, thank you for hanging with us. What's your comment, question? What do you have for us?
Hello?
Hi there, John. Go ahead.
I was wondering, Bree and her husband both have careers, and I was wondering how they balance those. When she gets a chance to move, you know, does he follow her? And what happens if she gets, or if he gets a chance to move? How do you balance that, especially with 2 children?
That's a hard one.
I was going to say, I think that's the $1 million question.
Yeah.
Thank you for calling for most couples out there. So initially, I mentioned in our journey, my husband used to be in restaurants. He was a chef. He was the general manager for a line of restaurants called Houston's. There was one here. The first one here actually opened in 1977. It's not here anymore, but it's delicious if you ever go to one. His company moved us to New Orleans, and I had to find a way there. And New Orleans is a pretty big television market, so that was, I mean,
that we're just starting off.
And I was just starting off. So that required another sort of holy hand from God to open a door for me. A wonderful woman, Margaret Orr, she's my mentor. She's the chief at Channel 6 in New Orleans. She took me under her wing. She taught me how to work on the green screen. And when the job opened up in Baton Rouge, she called.
Oh,
and
that's
said,
great.
Yeah, you got to hire this girl. She's a firecracker. She's great. And they did. And so that's how I got my first chance. My husband's job moved us to St. Louis, so I had to quit my job that I worked my tail feather off for, and then moved to St. Louis with no job.
Very big market.
It is a very big television market.
Bigger than Nashville.
Bigger than Nashville. And felt like, and I remember praying so hard and being like, God, is this the end of the road? How do I show up at Market 21 with a year experience?
And go knocking on a door.
And literally, and that's what I did. I borrowed my mother-in-law's pearls because I was in the Midwest, and I thought that's what you should do in the Midwest. And I went down to a news station on Friday, and I was like, God put this news station on my heart. And you know, it took a couple months, but doors opened, and I got a chance. And my husband and I, over that 5 years, really realized we both couldn't have on-demand careers. You know, when he was the general manager of a restaurant, and if something was going wrong,
he had to be there.
He had to be there. And if there's tornadoes falling from the sky,
you got to be there.
I got to be here, and that doesn't work with babies. We were also working just grueling. I was on the morning shift in St. Louis, and he was working evenings, noon to midnight.
You passed in the middle of the day.
We didn't see each other, and so you know, we very much had to have a reckoning of like, okay, well, what's important to us? You know, our marriage is important to us, family is important to us. We need to get our schedules. And we need to prioritize. We need to raise our kid together, not just pass the baby and run. So we decided to let my career lead, and just really trusted it to God. And God opened a door to Nashville, which was hysterical. I remember when I called him and I said, "What do you think about Nashville?" And he said, "I love Nashville."
Oh, that's so funny.
And I'd never even been here before. And I was like, "Really?" And then I went and fell in love. So we've very much reached a point. You know, this was an intentional move for us. This was an intentional way. He has moved into a different career, and he's doing a great job. He works in real estate now We have lunch together every day. I'm home with the kids in the morning. You know, very much for you. It's an unusual schedule because we work
still very
nights.
hard.
You know, we're not home for dinner, but we can find other moments that are special. And at this point, you know, we've really focused that for my career to be successful, his had to be more consistent. And I'll give him a shout out right now. He's putting both boys to bed right now.
I tell you what, we have some amazing husbands who can double man babies. That they are on it.
Dinner,
rocking one, doing dinner with another, homework, whatever it is.
Bath time, bedtime. You know, and I come home a little after 11 o'clock at night, and the house is quiet, and
hopefully,
ish. Things are real crazy, but it is. You know, it's a team effort. Just
and a shout out to us in the morning. We are moms by ourselves all morning long with 2 little ones.
Mom and hard.
There you go.
Say, we got early risers. 6 a.m. You get those little eyeballs and going, "Hi, Mama. You want to play?" Sure do.
Sure do.
Let's do it.
5 hours of sleep. John, thank you for calling in. Let's go to Ann now. Hi, Ann. Ann, you're on the line. We're ready for your comment, your question. What do you have for us?
Hello. Thank you. Good evening, girls.
Good evening.
I'm so glad I got a hold of you, Bree. You've been such a beautiful weather forecaster, but I always had a feeling that you were into science, and now you've spoken about it. And I really think Channel 5 would do a really good deed for everyone if they could have a little side takeoff edition of you doing some kind of little science project for young girls and boys. I grew up in a family of 5 girls, and I always loved science, and I still do. And I just think, you know, everybody can stick to the basic weather, blah, blah, blah. But I think you have that knack with the children and a good, wonderful smile and personality. And I think Channel 5 should have a little science takeoff, because the weather is only so far that you can stretch it. And that would be wonderful to see. And I'll talk to you.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you. That's a great idea. I can just imagine, like, you know, not Bree, the science guy, science woman. You know, the segment at the end of the 6 o'clock news.
Science with sunshine.
There you go. Science with sunshine. I like it.
Something fun.
No, but seriously, you do go out and talk to kids a lot, which is wonderful.
And I love doing it, especially because, you know, the child's mind, they fill in the blanks that they don't even know that they have.
Right.
You know, they'll tell you where raindrops came from and that God's bowling in the sky and hailstones and this. And, you know, I think it's so interesting and creative when you really do engage with kids, because it also helps me remember what I don't know. Remember what I do know. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, as a scientist or someone who talks weather all day, it's really easy to just get a little uber nerdy.
Sure.
And assume, you know,
everybody's on the same page with you.
Exactly. Anybody any good if it's weather for weather.
Right.
I'm supposed to talk to everybody at home. And we've got 7-year-old viewers and we've got 77-year-old viewers. And so engaging with them, because I mean, clearly I like weather, that's what I do. It impacts everybody's life. You know, if it's dangerous, yeah, that's a big deal. But if it's just a nice day with your family, or you've got a birthday party for your son outside, or you've got a picnic, or you've got golf, you know, your day is the most important thing to you. And so finding ways to speak to people about that, finding ways to make it interesting, relevant,
and
approachable
memorable
for kids.
Yeah.
That they can look and go, I know what that is.
Right.
Everyone likes aha moments.
Absolutely. Okay, let's go back to the lines. We have David on the line. Hi, David. Hey, David, you can go ahead.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear you. Thank you for taking the call.
Sure.
This is a weather thing. I know y'all want to get to the personal business.
Oh, it's okay.
But growing up around Nashville, 10 years old, first time I ever studied anybody or watched him was Bob Lobertini. Everybody knows him. He got me interested in this. I do this basically as a hobby. There's a term that's not even used anymore, even though the weather is still going on up there. It's an occluded front. It's almost like a triad of air temperatures. When a warm front meets a cold front, and you got warm air on one side, cool, and then cold on the other. But you know the weather's still going on like that. It's part of the cyclogenesis, I think is what they call it. But either way about it, there's got to be a term for it. It's still got to be going on. And I know nobody, I mean, the Weather Channel won't even use it anymore. But there's got to be another term for it, or is that just passe, like groovy or something like that? You don't use it anymore.
I think groovy's cool.
Still got to be going on. But I'll hang up and listen to you. And
All
thanks
right.
for everything, Bree. You're doing an awesome job.
Thank
dear.
you. Thank you. And I love the enthusiasm. So what you're just talking about, an occluded front, that typically happens in the upper levels of the atmosphere. I wouldn't say that it's a passe thing, but it's not, I wouldn't say that when a front occludes, that doesn't necessarily mean that it has more impact. Oftentimes we talk about cold fronts and warm fronts, and when they occlude is when those begin to catch up with each other. So he used the term cyclogenesis. Cyclogenesis is a low pressure system. We talk about lows. A low is a cyclone. It's just a cool way, it's just a more impressive way of saying a deepening storm system. So when you have cyclogenesis, you have a storm system that's becoming deeper or it's becoming stronger, it's intensifying. When it begins to occlude, that ends the intensification stage, and that's when it usually starts to fall apart. So I wouldn't say that it was a passe phrase. I think it's just something that maybe got stuck up there in the geekier sense of things, because I think as meteorologists, as forecasters, we've switched more from telling the weather as a scientific report and speaking more to the impacts.
Yes.
I can add one juicy tidbit that I think you might like. Weather really came as a byproduct of World War II. They needed to figure out forecasting, especially for D-Day, bombing and the air approach, the air assault approaches. And so some of the first meteorologists that came out of World War II, a lot of the words we use today, like front, are military terms.
That's interesting. Makes sense.
Because when they were talking about, well, it's a large area that is going to cause opposition or friction or cause some sort of collision, like a cold front, a cold air mass colliding with a warm air mass, to them that was a front.
Sure.
Just like military terms. So you'll find a lot of military terms in meteorology, even as we use it today.
And speaking of terms, I don't remember what it was. It may have been with one of these hurricanes in the past, or with one of the tornadoes that happened this summer. There was some term that came out and everybody was using it, like it was this new term. It wasn't, I may have to give you the commercial break to think about it, but you were kind of rolling your eyes like, come on guys, take a break with it.
Oh, I want to know now.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, we have to take a commercial break. We will brainstorm during the commercial break.
That's way stuck in the sleep deprivation of like, what?
Stay with us, more of your calls next.